238 electors in America are officially electing the President of the United States. Now, we've talked about this before. I know it seems strange for people that aren't familiar with how the Constitution and our founding fathers set this up, but technically, we don't directly elect the president, the voters. What we do is we elect the electors, in essence, and then the electors turn around and officially elect the President of the United States. So it doesn't become official. It's not constitutionally official until these 538 people cast their votes. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but the President of the United States is really only elected by 538 people. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a waste of time for us to go to the polls. Quite the contrary, because the reason that Donald Trump is going to win among those electors is because the states that he won, the Republican electors from those states are the ones who are allowed to vote in the Electoral College, and the Democrat electors aren't. So the Democrat electors are only voting in the states where Hillary Clinton won, and the Republican electors are voting in the states where Donald Trump won. That's why every vote does matter. Every vote does count. Donald Trump won the state of Michigan, where we broadcast from here, won the state of Michigan by 10,704 votes. Okay, 10,000 votes is considered a fairly small margin of victory. It's like 2/10 of a margin of victory. But every one of those 10,000 votes counted. If Hillary Clinton had won the state of Michigan, then the 16 Democrat electors would be voting on Monday instead of the 16 Republican electors in the state of Michigan. You see, and then Hillary Clinton would have 16 more electoral votes come Monday. Donald Trump would have 16 less. So yes, every vote counts, because the votes are for the purpose of getting your candidate to win your state, so that your party's electors are the ones who cast their votes. So when you add up all the electors in the states that Donald Trump won, they add up to 306. When you add up all the electors in the states that Hillary Clinton won, they add up to 232. Therefore, Donald Trump wins 306 to 232, but that's not official. Those 306 Republican electors from the states Donald Trump won, including 16 from Michigan, they will actually officially be casting their ballots for president on Monday, December 19th. Consequently, the Republican electors have been hammered by liberal Democrats all across the country, telling them don't vote for Donald Trump, trying to persuade them not to vote for Donald Trump. Some of them have said they've even received death threats. They're receiving tens of thousands, like 50, 60, 70, 80,000 email, phone calls constantly, their families being harassed, all of this stuff by liberal Democrats all across the country that are trying to pressure and intimidate these Republican electors into not voting for Donald Trump on Monday. Now, who are these electors? They're not congressmen or senators or anything. They're just regular folks. They're regular voters, but they tend to be kind of party loyalists. In other words, these are the people, like the Republican electors, they're the ones who they're either donors or volunteers to the Republican Party, or officials within the Republican Party at a statewide level themselves, people like that. So it's people that you're pretty comfortable with are going to be loyal to your party. Well, those are the people that the Republican Party selects in the individual states to be the electors, just like the Democratic Party does the same thing in their individual states. You don't want to select an elector who's kind of shaky, so that when it comes election day, there's any chance that person's going to flip to the other side. So both parties are pretty good about making sure that they select electors who are going to be faithful, not faithless, as it's referred to in politics, to the candidate. Well, with that said, there's been a massive grassroots effort, as I told you, by a bunch of liberals to try to pressure and intimidate these Republican electors into not voting for Donald Trump. Now, he's got to get 270 votes on Monday. If he gets 270 votes on Monday, he's officially, constitutionally elected President of the United States. Why is it 270? Because the Constitution says that you have to get half plus one. So half of the electors plus one. Well, there's 538 total electors. You might say, well, why is there 538? Where's that number come from? It comes from the amount of representatives in Congress, because you have 535 members of Congress, right? That makes up it's made up of 100 senators and 435 U.S. House members. There's your 535. So of the 535, and then Washington, D.C. is not a state, but they do have 3 electors assigned to Washington, D.C., so hence the 538. So what's half of 538? 269, right? So theoretically, if you had 2 candidates, each one split the electors right down the middle and got 269 and 269, you wouldn't have a winner, because the Constitution says you have to get half plus one. So that's the reason that 270 is considered the magic number. I'm just trying to simplify all this for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with how the process works as far as what's coming up Monday. So all Donald Trump needs to do is hit 270 to have the threshold. At this point, of all of the electors that are there's 538 electors allowed to vote on Monday in their own state capitals. 306 of them are Republicans from Republican states that Donald Trump won. 232 of them are Democrats from blue states that Hillary Clinton won. So theoretically, all 306 Republicans are going to vote for Donald Trump. But that doesn't mean for sure that's going to happen. There's already been one elector from Texas who's declared, I'm not going to vote for Trump. He's not going to vote for Hillary, but he's not going to vote for Trump. Right in a third party, he's thinking about going John Kasich or something like that. Well, that brings me then to Larry Lessig, who's this Harvard University constitutional law professor. And he says, as part of the grassroots effort, and by the way, he's been very involved in this grassroots, he's a liberal Democrat, okay? He's been very involved in this effort. He says that he privately and personally knows of at least 20 Republican electors who he thinks may not vote for Donald Trump. Now, before any of you get nervous, there's no reason to get nervous. Number one, I say this guy's wrong. I think he's wrong. But number two, even if he were right and 20 electors chose not to vote for Donald Trump, let's say they all voted for, I don't know, John Kasich or Ted Cruz or somebody else, Donald Trump would still win because he's 36 points right now, 36 votes above 270, which means that this guy, this professor, would have to get 37 Republicans that are electors to vote against Donald Trump come Monday. And there's nowhere close to 37 that they're going to get. It's not going to happen. And I'm telling you right now, he's not going to get the 20. He might get the one in Texas. There might be possibly a second one or maybe a third one. But that's it, folks. It's not going to be anywhere close to 20, trust me. And even if it was 20, that's nowhere close to 37. Now, theoretically, if 37 of those 306 Republicans that are voting on Monday, if 37 of them refuse to vote for Donald Trump and instead voted for Ted Cruz or anybody else, then that would take Donald Trump down to 269, and he would not be officially elected president. Now, Hillary Clinton wouldn't be over 270 either, because these Republicans aren't going to vote for Hillary Clinton, so she's still going to be stuck at 232. Donald Trump would be at 269, and then Ted Cruz or Kasich or somebody else would be theoretically at 37. Well, even if that were the case, all that means, what the Constitution says, is that it then goes to the House of Representatives. And the House of Representatives then votes on who the president's going to be. Well, the House of Representatives is controlled by Republicans right now. So what you'd have to do is you'd have to get the House of Representatives all together to decide, we're not going to vote for Donald Trump, we're going to vote for John Kasich or Ted Cruz or somebody else. It's not going to happen. But it doesn't matter, because it won't even make it to the House of Representatives, because there's no way in the world 37 electors that are Republican are going to turn their back on their party. It's not going to happen. I want you to remember, folks, these electors, even the electors that don't like Donald Trump, and there will be some of them, there will be several of them, that will hold their nose on Monday and vote for Donald Trump. They desperately didn't want him. Either they're a centrist moderate and they wanted somebody like a John Kasich, or they're a Tea Party conservative Christian and they wanted somebody like Ted Cruz, but they just didn't want Donald Trump. Okay. Those electors, the reason that they're still going to vote for Donald Trump anyway is because what is the alternative? They know a third-party candidate is not going to be elected. They know it's either going to be Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And they still have to live in their state with their party. They still have a career to think about. They still have all of their connections within the Republican Party and in their state and everything else. If they end up refusing to vote for Donald Trump, their political career in their own state would pretty much be over. The Republican Party of their state, whatever state it is, would treat them like a pariah. We have nothing to do with you. We don't trust you anymore. You'll never be an elector again. We don't want you volunteering for our campaigns. You're not somebody who can be trusted. They're gonna be damaged goods politically in their own states. You think any of these electors are really going to take that kind of chance? Even the ones that don't like Donald Trump? So do me a favor, folks. Don't get nervous about this. People sending me email, Bob, is this possible that Hillary Clinton could still win? Could Donald Trump still be denied that? No, it's not going to happen. Now, of course, I know this is the same person who told you there's no way in the world that Donald Trump would win. So I get it. But I think it's very safe to say we don't have to worry about this, okay, as far as the electors go. Anyway, you're listening to The Bob Dutko Show.